With TSD Talks.
Welcome once again to the TSD Talks podcast. This is the TSD Talks podcast because today is my 21st birthday, which means that I have control of the reins. I'm in charge now. This is my...
And it also means you're blackout drunk.
It also means I'm blackout drunk. It won't sound like it, but just know I'm like so wasted.
Yeah, you've kind of gone past the zone where you're slurring, and you're back into that kind of... You've kind of pushed past incoherence altogether.
You know functional alcoholics? I'm a hyperfunctional alcoholic. That's what's going on here.
Yes.
All right. So, because I'm in charge now, because this is my show now, I have decided, Pillar, I want to show you something.
Okay.
I'm going to send you a live feed of something real quick.
All right.
Hold on. Now tell me, what do you see on this live feed?
Unless it's a copy-pasting error, I see comment corner.
Yeah, a little bustling
I can see
street.
comment corner.
Bustling street full of happy people.
Oh, yeah. I can see a few comments kind of going about their days.
All right, such a bustling thing. Now, you see this little red button that I'm holding?
Oh, I do. And there's a wire going from it to some sort of large... is that a contraption I see?
There is a contraption. Now, I'm going to press this button, Pillar, and I'm going to... and this is...
It doesn't look like a great button. It looks like an ominous button.
It is an ominous button, so... But I think I'm dragging this out a little bit too much, so I'm just gonna push it and show you what's going to happen right there.
Holy shit! All the comments! No! Those comments had replies, TSD. Alright, yeah. For our listeners.
Alright, that's the end of Comment Corner, because I'm in charge now, and we're gonna make some changes around here, alright? This is the new era, because this is what happens when you take power. You move fast, and you break things, and you take a new path forward.
Yes, you get something which has been a kind of a stalwart kind of friend of the show, like kind of a part of it.
Yes.
And then you just blow it the fuck up.
I blow it the fuck up.
That is what you do.
That it is dead and buried and definitely won't be brought back at some point in the future.
Probably not in a few episodes' time.
Hey, Chekhov, why'd you bring this gun over here? But because Comment Corner is now dead and buried, we have a bit of an opening, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, kind of the world's kind of our oyster right now, you know? What are we going to fill all that time with?
You're taking the destruction of Comment Corner, a bustling city and a bustling city block, a bustling corner even, very well, Pillar.
Well, I'm kind of just repressing it inside, you know. I feel like maybe next time we come around, maybe if it ever does make a return, I'll kind of, maybe it'll be like an ongoing arc that, you know, kind of little repressed bubbles of trauma popping out. Maybe I'll just kind of bolt upright in the middle of the night and kind of scream. But for now, I'm just kind of rolling with the punches.
It's delayed. It'll hit you later.
Yeah.
We've gotten a lot of feedback from people. We've gotten feedback from our audience members. And one thing that they really like that we do is when we talk about streaming shows. So.
Yes.
You know, Pillar, you've got one job here. Your job here is to sit here and talk, and now that I'm in charge, you get to make whatever jingles that I say you should make. So right now,
yes,
whip it up.
I will do my best.
Here's the jingle for the streaming section.
Okay, how was that? Was that what you were going for?
Well, that is streaming in one way or another.
Oh, you were talking about like content.
Yes, like streaming services. But you know, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It works. Yeah. I'm a power mad despot. I can only I take what I can get. You know, like I'm a dictator here, But I'm not unreasonable, okay? I know it takes a lot of effort to make
No,
it.
I don't think anyone would accuse you of that.
No, they definitely wouldn't. Otherwise, bad things would happen to them.
Yeah, exactly. They get, just take a look at Comic Corner.
Yeah, Comic Corner, rest in peace. So we've got a couple, but now that we're back into the actual real life, we've got a couple shows that you and I have both been watching over the course of the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, shows we're both a fan of.
Yeah.
Obviously, like the segment. This is we're doing the I don't know what we're going to call it. Maybe the stream report. Maybe, I don't know, something. This is the segment when we talk about streaming content, and we're kind of lucky to be living right now. Like, everything's going great, and particularly on streaming.
Yeah.
There's a couple of absolute keynote kind of TV shows which are rolling out simultaneously, ones we're both big fans of, and we've talked about before on our channels.
And
so
on this
hand, you got
podcast,
Invincible.
A little bit. Yeah, in fact, because Invincible was like kind of the maiden voyage of this show, even because we were.
Oh yeah, it was kind of the
Because
I'm kind of flashing back right now.
Now we're in an era where Invincible actually does yearly releases, which is strange.
Yeah. Hey, we talked about that on the podcast too.
Yeah. And apparently, did you see this? That apparently they're planning on having a release every year until the show's over now?
No, but like, if they can, that rocks if they can do it and not crunch the animators.
Well, that's the question, isn't it? But, it's okay because that means that the Invincible fans on Twitter will surely be satiated.
I think they'll be chill now.
Yeah.
I can see them kind of being reasonable guys.
But we're going to start with Invincible, and then later we're going to talk about Severance season 2. But what has been your main takeaway from the first couple? So as of right now, there are 4 episodes of the show out. There will be another episode out tomorrow, as of when we're recording this. So episode 5.
There's always a bit of a lag. The listeners are used to us not being completely on the ball. It's fine. Yeah, we've just watched the one episode 4 where Mark travels into 2026.
Oh, and spoiler, it's 2026.
It's a little joke.
It is. It's funny and also true.
Yeah.
Also, obviously, spoiler warning for season 3 of Invincible. We'll put time codes in the description for that.
And hey, probably maybe even season 2 and 1 as well.
True. We just talk about season 3, but actually you can watch season 1 and 2 if you listen to this section. It'll probably be fine. Pillar, remind me again, have you read the comics for Invincible?
I have not read any of the comics, and I do not. Honestly, I'm gonna say it. I don't intend to. I don't know if I've mentioned that before on the podcast or to you, but like, I really like the TV show, and I like. I don't want to be one of these guys who's like, oh, it's all about being surprised by the plot. Obviously, spoilers don't ruin a good story. But also, I like not knowing where it's going, because Invincible is one of these shows where it kind of takes a few swerves that you're not really expecting. That's kind of almost the pitch for it. It's like, hey, superhero show, but also, what about this? And I want to be there. I want to be thrown off the ride, I want to have my seatbelt not in for the big hairpin bend and just go flying out of the car and smash my face into the cliff, like Invincible gore levels of kind of destruction.
Yeah, it's nice about Invincible is that like the twists and stuff that it does still feel kind of fresh in our current like superhero laden ecosystem, which is strange because it's almost beat for beat following the plot line from the comic from 20 years ago, which I wonder if that says anything about about this, like the conventions of
how kind of innovative and fresh things are outside of Invincible.
Yeah,
maybe it's like your drunkenness, maybe like the wider medium is just so kind of vivacious and vibrant that it's actually just gone all the way around.
Yeah, which no better example than Captain America Brave New World in theaters now.
Yes, which we haven't seen yet and probably won't be seeing for a while.
Yeah, but actual Invincible stuff. So what was I have read the comics. I've read I read last when I first watched season 1, which was I want to say summer of 2022 or 2023. Mm-hmm. I just like binged the whole comic all the way through because up until that point only season 1 was released, and that was the first 13 or so episodes. It was 13 or so issues of the comic. And the comic is a bit rough in places, especially when you're comparing it directly to the show. But it gets to the point about, I want to say like 50 issues in or something. There's like 100 There's like 113 issues total. But like 50 or so issues in, it like surpasses where the show was at that point, in terms of quality. And it's really interesting to see to the path and stuff it takes. And it's also because it's not a story, I should say, that's afraid of doing things that are like kind of uncomfortable. And like it's direct, like outside of just like gore, blah 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 blah. You know, this guy's head gets torn off. There's like some genuinely like uncomfortable questions about like power and power dynamics and how that relates and how that's accentuated.
And the gore's an extension of that. It's like it's got this kind of unifying thing of which that is one of the protruding kind of stylistic choices, but it's all tied in.
Yeah. And now it's got like a all-star voice cast and some decent animation, decent in like the truest sense of the word. And like,
I like the animation. I know people don't love the animation. I think it's cool. I think it's cool that it's not like, you know, hyper fluid, overdone everything. I kind of, you know, maybe that's just cope. I don't know. I think it's cool.
I'm not owned. Pillar screams in the corner. But yeah, I think that the animation is pretty good for the conditions that they're under, working under Amazon.
Yeah, and I guess like, for the style it's good. But and like,
I think that the most interesting thing that they've done with this so far in this season is Oliver's plotline. Oliver is one of the most interesting characters in the comics to me, and this is just like this is just like this is like the beginning of like a really interesting relationship between Omni-Man and his son, who knows of the bad things he's done, but has always lived with them.
Yeah.
And has never like experienced them firsthand.
Yeah.
'Cause like Nolan, for the first like 3 weeks of Oliver's life that he was there, was a decent guy. And he was the same for the first 18 years of Mark's life. When he's told that his dad killed a bunch of people, I'm not, like, his little kid brain doesn't really quite grasp it, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, I think part of that is the kid aspect, but also like, part of me feels like if you just told season 1 Mark, hey, your dad's a piece of shit, he's done all this stuff, then he wouldn't react in the same way. I think it's about age, but I think it's also about experience. You know, I talked in a video like a while back on my channel about what I like about season 1 and I guess the comics use of Mark's kind of withstanding ability is that it like kind of forces a space of like visceral confrontation to emerge, and I think that's, you know, that's relevant here as well. Like maybe if Oliver had sort of been party to this as opposed to just being told about it, you know, even as a kid, maybe that would have been different as well. But yeah, it's a really interesting kind of foil dynamic between.
And I mean, I think your point is almost kind of proven by the fact that in this show, almost every other incarnation of Mark in other like universes and stuff is a bad guy who was totally into everything Nolan was doing. He was like, you know what? Imperial genocide of other planets sounds epic. Sounds awesome, Dad. I love that.
It's interesting you say that because I just rewatched season 2, episode 1 yesterday because I'm watching it again with my girlfriend. She's not watched it before as season 3 is coming out, so it's cool. I think I'm in a fun place right now where I can talk to you and you know more than me because of the comics, and I'm also watching it with her and she knows nothing. Yeah. So I'm kind of in the Invincible.
You're kind of like the Mark to my Nolan and to her Oliver in a way.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly true. Yeah.
I think also someone else brought up in like the Invincible discussion forums in the Pillar of Garbage server. It might have been me. I don't know. I can't remember who talks about anything. But they said that whoever this was said that Oliver is interesting because a lot of little kids don't really develop empathy until like puberty or even like a little bit before, a little bit after, like that. Generally that area, they don't really develop like a sense of true empathy. So that's, you know, always an issue with raising kids to be like, hey, other people have emotions too, blah, blah, blah. But it is so compounded when that kid has the ability to just turn people into mush if he wants to.
Yeah, and that was always Nolan's problem, right? That was the Viltrumite Empire's biggest thing, is that the kind of dehumanization and not having true empathy for other people like the humans.
Yeah.
So that's another interesting parallel. There's a lot of them going around. It's like we're in a ruler shop, you know?
It's like the most interesting, like there's like the scene where Oliver kills the Maulers, which, you know, R.I.P.
Yeah.
R.I.P. to real ones. But the thing that's most interesting to me is not necessarily that scene itself, but the ensuing conversation that Mark has with Oliver about like, you can't do that. And Oliver's just like, why? Why can't I do that? Like they were going to hurt people, and so I killed them. And then
obviously the contrast that's created in the episode right after that, the one we've just watched that's come out recently for us, where Mark is placed in a very similar situation in the future, and he kind of goes against what he said to Oliver. And I guess the difference is that he did it sort of unwillingly and knew it was wrong, but obviously there's still that blurring. You know, I think season 3, a lot of it is about taking the already blurry lines and then kind of blurring them some more. Also, side note, on point of view of a guy who hasn't read the comics, I was expecting the king in the future to be Oliver.
Yeah?
I thought that's where I was going to go, yeah. Kind of swerved my expectations there.
Kind of subverted your expectations almost. Kind of made you think. Yeah, Immortal is weird in that he just kind of always sucks. He's just kind of always the worst in a way. Like he's never like that's the closest he ever gets to like being an all-knowing, evil, powerful supervillain, but he always is just kind of like this guy. Yeah, he's just kind of a wanker. It's cool though. I like what they did with him because that's always the flip side of, it's what Invincible does. It takes an aspect of the superhero genre and then it kind of extrudes it. It kind of takes it semi-seriously and looks at what the ramifications could be. And obviously, that's always one of the wishes, right? You meet a genie, he gives you 3 wishes. I want to live forever. Okay, yeah, but then what about when your brain explodes from being too old and having too many memories in it? It's like it's the Invincible episode of that Jacob Geller video about The Simpsons. Yeah.
For the one guy listening who has seen / watched all of the things I just referenced.
Yeah, it's a reference made for the audience of one.
Yes.
But and that one being me, because I've seen that video too.
Nice.
There's when you're talking about that in terms of taking things semi-seriously, one of the most interesting things is something that actually isn't in the comics as far as I can remember, is the opening of episode 3. I think it's episode 3. With the couple.
Oh yeah,
with
the silent thing.
It's like a silent film almost, about a gay supervillain couple, and they're just regular people pretty much. Then they're just struggling to get by. Yeah. They're not gonna take over that fucking world. They're just I'm just robbing this bank because I've got powers and we need to pay rent and our landlord sucks and our boss sucks. And this is what we're reduced to. We're literally living on the streets if we don't go into supervillainy. And then we don't really see what happens to them. I guess we do. We see that they go to the Pentagon prison place. But I think that's a cool little addition because there's not a satisfying ending to that, because it's sometimes life just sucks in this world because
things continue. Yeah. No, I like that too. I thought that's good, and it's kind of another one of these small nuggets of vindication for what Invincible is doing as a project, right? Getting the bloke who wrote the comic to come back and kind of revise it for a different medium, and people are in two minds about some of the changes he's made. Putting a box to the side with packing tape all around it saying Amber Discourse, we're not opening that. But I think moments like this show that even if you are some sort of delusional loser who's got some big problem with a nothing burger there, you got to look at these things and be like, hey, that's cool. This is a cool thing that's happening.
I think I actually will pick at the tape a little bit on that box.
Oh, no.
Because
all right, yeah.
I think that by and large, the best thing, the best change that this show has made is how it writes female characters. Because something, I don't know what happened to Robert Kirkman between 2006 and 2021, but he just somehow woke up one day and was able to actually write female characters.
Oh, you say he got woke?
He got woke. He got DEI.
Well, now I can't watch this show anymore if it's got DEI in it.
Because, like, Debbie is a very frustrating character in the comics because she's upset about, like, what happens with Nolan, but she's also, like, really quick to forgive him, like, you know, when it comes to it. And, like, there's, like, I really like how in the she does a lot of the same things in the show, but in the show, her taking care of Oliver, for example, is framed less as, this is my last piece of Nolan that I have because I still love him. Yeah. It's more like, this is my son's brother. It's more of an individual thing. Yeah, this is my son's brother. So I'm going to take care of my son's brother, not my husband's son.
Yeah, and also, like, another piece of her family that, you know, she'd thought that was kind of all growing away from her, and it gives her a chance to be the mother again, which obviously isn't all she is, but, like, clearly is something she enjoyed.
Yeah, and, like Paul, I think it's very funny that her boyfriend is called Paul, considering modern context, but...
yes.
In the comic, how Oliver and Mark meet Paul is how you're introduced to Paul. He's just some random guy on her couch. So I like how in the show you get to know him first. You get to know, like, their relationship before it's just like, who's this guy? And that's just Debbie. Debbie, I think, is a huge improvement. Amber, not going to touch that, but she's basically a nothing character in the comics, so any kind of characterization is an improvement. That's what I'll say about that. And Eve is a bit more frustrating in the show because she inherits a lot of her comics problems of just kind of being there until her and Mark start dating. But I think they're handling that plotline a lot better because in the comics when she finds out that, like, a future version of herself is told her to love. Actually, I don't even know if she does find that out. I can't remember if she does. But she's basically just like, yeah, okay. And then in the show, she has this complex of, like, how am I still obsessed over Mark? It's like 40 years in the future. That's, like, so embarrassing. That's so embarrassing. And I think that's a really interesting way for her to take that.
Yeah, no, it's just, like you say, this is one of the best upshots of this project as well as just the kind of extension of the subjectivity to all the female characters in the same way that maybe the protagonist more so had it before, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, but women are good. Women rock.
Women are
Let's
cool.
go women. Hashtag I'm with her.
Yeah.
Why are you laughing? Are you not with her?
No, I'm with her. I just appreciate. Okay, I was appreciating the reference. I was appreciating the reference to a now bygone era. Because here in the United States, woke doesn't exist anymore. Did you hear about that? Getting rid of
well, you guys kind of got rid of it, didn't you?
Getting rid of woke.
So you kind of sorted that out.
That's a direct quote from the president of the fucking
Which is
United
weird.
States.
I think the kind of YouTube guys making their silly videos, I don't know if they quite got the memo yet.
Yeah, guys, woke is
going.
Woke is gone now. I don't know what's going on there. Woke is gone now.
Yeah, like, did you guys not hear? Woke is gone. They killed it.
Have you seen that thing that's like Japanese soldier fighting for 30 years after war ended? That's those guys.
That is nerdrotic. Yes. That's a good bit. We should circle back to that at some point and do something.
Well, one last thing I wanted to bring up about Invincible, but if you have any other things, of course, like, let me know. But this is the thing that I find interesting is because obviously, again, I knew this in the comics, but now we've revealed that the Viltrumite Empire, quote unquote, isn't nearly as big as people think it is. It's like 50 people.
Yeah.
And so do you mind, like, you can probably, like, figure out why there's only 50 people, right? Like, you can...
Oh, well, it's like they did their whole kind of fascist genetic purity thing of whittle it down to just the pure dudes, and then like the strongest of the strong. I guess that kills most of you guys, and then maybe also there's some sort of fertility problem. I don't know. I would guess there's something going on there.
It's largely ideological, from what I remember. Yeah. It's like a thing of, like, they're kind of doing the royal family meme of, like, we have to be pure-blooded Viltrumites, and that's why they're so mad at Nolan, because he breeded with a human and with a bug lady. But the thing
she was kind of freaky though, so I think we can give him the bug pass.
She was voiced by Rhea Seehorn, Kim Better Call Saul, though, so I don't know if
I don't have the context for that reference,
understand.
so I'm just going to say she was freaky again.
Okay. But I think, which is funny because even if let's step back for a moment and say that genetic purity actually matters, which is not the official statement, not the official position of the podcast. Eugenics is bad. Actually, that's our official position.
Yeah. I think I will co-sign that.
But stepping back, say we're engaging with the logic of this idea for a moment. Viltrumite DNA, they say this in the show and in the comics multiple times. They've said this in the show already. It is very dominant. It as you grow older, you literally become more Viltrumite. Your body actively. So Oliver currently isn't a quote unquote pure-blooded Viltrumite, but he will be one day. And Mark, I'm pretty sure, is not there yet either, but he will be one day. So even if you guys were concerned about genetic purity, just have them live 50 years before they breed again or whatever.
like they would. Yeah. But no, obviously it's an ideological thing more than a genetic thing. Just like real, what's the word I'm looking for? The thing, eugenics. That's it. Sorry, I got a bit of a headache. But no, that's a cool thing that they're just kind of building in the fact that, regardless of because this is, one of the things superhero programs like this or stories like this, one of the things that can be tricky to grapple with is the kind of supremacist undercurrents of the Superman idea, like going back to fucking, the way the Nazis appropriated Nietzsche and shit like that. But it's cool to see that Invincible is, obviously fully cognizant of that and then building in hey, we're taking this idea, the Superman that has been used in, for kind of fascist propaganda for a while, kind of looked to shore up the, Hitler's Germany's kind of dumbass evil projects. And then we could just kind of show you, from the jump, obviously, it's nonsensical even in the fantasy setting, because the outcomes are the same, you become the pure-blooded Viltrumite thing. And then also, okay, so you've done it. You've cut down your society. You've got only the purest of the pure left for the good of the people of Viltrum, right? For the good of the Viltrum Empire. Oh yeah, what's that good look like? Fucking 50 guys, And
you just lost 2 of them after
exactly.
After a fucking tiger attacked them.
Invincible's always been good, maybe a little over the top, I guess. I'm thinking again of the opening of season 2, episode 1, of showing how kind of contradictory and double thinky the Viltrumites' kind of ideology is. But it's good that there's that subtle layer of it here too, rather as well as just the kind of, oh, they made us kill all the protesters level,
And it's also just the fact that the idea that they've been able to kind of propose this, propagandize this idea of the Viltrumite Empire being this powerful by sending 1 or 2 people at a time and being but watch out, if we come back, we can send so many more people. We've totally got so many more people that we can intimidate you in, and then 50 Viltrumites is probably enough to wipe out a planet, and demonstrably actually is enough to wipe out a planet.
You could work Earth over pretty good with 50 Viltrumite dudes, but
it's funny because the Viltrumites are scary enough that they don't need to propagandize, but they decide to do so anyway because they've they're embarrassed of their being fit. It's the most closely guarded secret that there's only 50 Viltrumites. And in so doing, they kind of shot themselves in the foot, because if they opened with the fact that hey, there's only 50 of us, we could still totally rock your shit though if we wanted. It would honestly be more effective as a propaganda strategy.
Yeah, I guess it's the difference between their kind of, galaxy conquering ambitions or universe conquering ambitions and obviously you can't rule the universe with 50 guys, but you could rule the quadrant.
Yeah.
If we're going to start dividing the galaxy up into quadrants. But no, it's fascism is a ever expanding sort of ideology of war. It always has to be more.
Yeah.
So that's incompatible with reality. As much in Invincible as it is in reality,
Yeah. Hot take.
Not to get woke, because woke's dead.
Hot take. Fascism, kind of dumb, kind of silly, kind of contradictory inherently.
I think there's a couple of countries that aren't getting that memo right now.
Yeah, I don't want to name names, because in those countries, woke isn't allowed. It's not there anymore.
Yeah.
Did you have any other like big takeaways from the?
I think we've.
First
I
four
think
episodes.
I'm about cleaned out, mentally. I think we've kind of gone into my brain and sort of with a bit of a discursive Q-tip and just got all the gunk, the Invincible gunk out and kind of spread it around. So I'm happy to, hey, here's a segue. Brains.
Well,
another program with brains is Severance. How smooth was that? This is why they pay me the small bucks.
Smooth as my brain. Heyo.
Oh, smooth as because you're a bit of a smooth.
Because I am. Because I'm so plastered. I'm so drunk. My brain is actively decomposing. It's swimming in alcohol.
TSD, what do you think of season 2 of Severance?
Season 2 of Severance. It's good. I like it. There's 5 episodes out, I think, right now.
Yes.
Let's talk about the fact that Lumon is up to some shit. Okay, Lumon Industries, whatever they're called. I think it's Industries. Lumon's not good. They're not doing good things.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If I could just kind of push back on that real quick.
Whoa, okay, Pillar is a Lumon defender.
Well, the thing is, as we all know, what is and what isn't good is essentially determined by the market, right? It's kind of the free marketplace of ideas. The best idea will kind of rise to the top. Obviously, Lumon has kind of risen to the top, and they're kind of dictating reality now. So, I don't really know where you get off in trying to say that they're bad, because, if they weren't perfect, then probably they would have been disrupted in the business kind of sphere.
Yeah, that's true. Lumon may be exploiting their workers, but if you really think about it, they did rise to the top of the marketplace of ideas.
Yeah, it probably is the best solution, because otherwise something else would have come about. By the way, this podcast is sponsored by Amazon.
This podcast is sponsored by Apple TV.
Yes.
It's funny is that I listen to a podcast and they're like a political podcast, and they have some good political commentary, but they're also sponsored by a company that's also called Lumon. So there is a real Lumon company that's out there sponsoring. I don't know if they've watched Severance, so I'm guessing they're not, but it's just funny. Something I thought was really interesting that this season about so now we're in Severance talks, so spoilers for the first 5 episodes of season 2
and also season 1. Got to get that in there. There might be that one guy.
This is a little thing. This is kind of a little bit. This isn't very important to the larger topic and plot line, but I think this most recent episode is when I realized that Rickon is just a bad dude. He's not he's not quirky, but his heart's in the right place. He's just like a bad guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's the classic guy of principles because he wants to look cool, but then also when the money starts talking, he's ready to sell himself out. I think me personally, my perception of Rickon, it's not like this was any big swerve for me. I kind of had it, not to kind of blow my own horn, not to put the media literacy have a cap on myself, but I kind of had him pegged for a bit of a grifter from the start,
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of not like the other media critics. I kind of see things,
Whoa.
The text kind of speaks to me.
See, I guess I probably would have come to the same conclusion. Honestly, I probably would have if I give more thought to Rickon, I guess.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty obvious based off of what you do see in season 1 is that he's a pretty insecure person, and he wants to kind of appear smarter by having these wacky ideas, and he clearly on some level, he knows what he's saying is kind of bullshit, or at the very least, he knows that Mark knows it, and he knows that his wife knows it. His wife's rolling her eyes behind his back and stuff like that, and he's totally okay with that as long as they agree with it, and I guess. But it was the scene in this episode because for those of you who don't watch or not watching, Rickon wrote a book that in the first season inspired the workers at Lumon to think about their workplace differently and question authority and stuff.
To cast off their chains.
Chains, yeah. And so then Lumon decided that they wanted to partner with him to make a version for innies, for severed workers, but when you get in this scene, you see what they're actually going to put in this version, and it's basically just the opposite of what was in the original version, and it's all about pro, the most pro corporate propaganda kind of thing that you would see in an orientation pamphlet and stuff like that.
And in a wider sense, of course, it's not like totally about Rick and being a bad guy, right? It's also just like displaying the fact that Disco Elysium screenshot, right? Capital subsumes all critiques of itself, sells them back to you. And then also, there is this interesting layer where the TV show that commodifies liberation and sells it to you from Apple TV Plus is putting in a scene about a guy selling out his ideals, or like filtering them through the kind of money net lens of this big corporation. So there's that interesting kind of parallel there. Who knows where that'll go? But yeah, it's at once about Rick and being a bit of a dweeb, and also kind of not.
Yeah, like obviously that's not the main point. Like the main point isn't haha Rickon sucks. But I do think that was kind of...
But also, yeah, Rickon sucks.
I guess it was kind of my takeaway, because I was already like in the mindset of like, okay, this show is made by Apple. Well, it's not made by Apple, but it's published by Apple. And there's probably going to be... It's probably good to be critical of like what they're saying and what they're doing. But like overall, it seems like the showrunners are also aware of that. And I guess they're trying to kind of convey their message in a way that isn't like, cast off your chains and then buy more Apple TV Plus sponsorships. Yeah.
There's got to be a middle ground. Like you've got to be skeptical of that, but also I think, some people do kind of just look at it like, oh, it's distributed by a company. It's propaganda. I don't care, and there's got to be a middle ground there, just kind of take it with a pinch of salt. Be mindful when you watch Severance, kind of. Yeah, and you can kind of do that if you buy Pillar of Garbage podcast branded mindfulness candles from the official podcast dispensary, hosted of course on Amazon. So yeah, get your candles, light your wicks, and be mindful.
Exactly. But the other parts of the show are good too. I think that one of the most interesting additions in this new season is Miss Huang, because obviously she's a child. But she's also like acts exactly like Milchek did in the first season. And so it kind of raises like a thing of like, okay, so Lumon is clearly employing child labor to some extent, which, fucked up and evil and whatever.
Tracks. Yeah.
But you don't really think about that cognitive, like when you're interacting with Miss Huang too much. I don't know why I keep saying Huang.
Yeah,
it's not pronounced
Huang. Like sounds like the twanging of a bowstring or something.
Yeah, but like when you're like scenes with Miss Huang are just uncomfortable, not because like she's a child, but because she's creepy, and she's like a creepy manager. She acts like a creepy manager. Like I said, she acts like Milchek does in the first season. And it's interesting because of what they're deciding to do with Milchek this season. And Milchek is kind of having almost the Harmony Cobell role of being like a more realized person, but obviously still creepy because he's a creepy creeper guy. They're all creepy. Like everyone at Lumon is creepy who isn't severed is the main takeaway.
Yeah. Well, I think that, the takeaway is that management is creepy. If you're a manager, you're a creep. Yeah. We don't like you. Stop listening to the podcast.
Boo, managers.
Boo.
It's fine. There are probably some lovely managers out there.
So that's a little bit. We just do bits every now and then on this podcast. You don't have to take it so seriously, And you can actually get into the mind space of not taking things so seriously if you buy the Pillar of Garbage Funny Time Joke Book from the Pillar of Garbage podcast dispensary on Amazon. Use code podcast 10.
We're gonna have to actually start like a dispensary at this point if you keep making that joke. And that's too much effort, Pillar. That's too much effort.
Side note, I don't know if I'll ever make the video. If not, we could repurpose it for something on the podcast, I guess. But I'm toying around with the script at the moment that kind of makes the point that kind of doing stuff, kind of really doing anything is kind of a waste of time, and we should probably just like not do anything ever.
Yeah, that's probably accurate.
So yeah, check back and see if that ever comes out.
Another thing in Severance as well is that I thought was interesting is how they're doing what they're doing with Helena / Heliar. And how Helena obviously is more of is like a somewhat powerful evil force, kind of malevolent force in the show in terms of being the daughter of the CEO and part of the family dynasty that runs this company, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And like
she's the worst of both worlds. She's a nepo baby and a kind of neoliberal corporate overlord.
But she also doesn't really have any real autonomy of her own, which is interesting compared to like how little autonomy Heliar and the other people have.
Yeah, ironically, Helly has more freedom than Helena.
Yeah.
Fancy that.
Because,
Think about that one.
you know, Heliar was literally created to be a PR stunt and a wage slave, pretty much. But she takes control of her own, you know, destiny, and she's able to get results out of her own actions. Meanwhile, Helena is like this powerful, rich executive, and she can't even say no to her father when he says, "Go into work today, so that you can like give Mark S his friend." Because obviously, in the big twist in episode 4, which I feel like I saw coming. I don't know about you.
I definitely did not.
You didn't?
You know, I don't know. Are you like checking in on like the fan kind of speculation threads online? Because I'm not doing any of that. I'm just going
occasionally, but like I was talking with the people in the server, and I was talking with my mom, who I'm watching it with, and we were all kind of like, she seems like awkward and weird around the other people in a way that Helly never was, and then, you know, obviously she's like playing the role a little bit differently.
No, it took me completely by surprise. I mean, it's crazy. I must have taken my hat off for that part.
Your thinking cap?
Yeah, my media literacy cap.
It's interesting because it kind of, I keep saying interesting. Like it is interesting. It's a good show. There's so many different layers to it. Because you know, it's taking autonomy away from Heliar, and Helly now essentially is flying blind in the situation. She has no idea what's going on, because the thing that is so, I think the thing that Helena tells me about this, combined with the overtime protocol in the last season, shows that the line between severance and like non-severed is completely made up. Like it's like, obviously it was like it was made up artificial before because it's an artificial surgery, but it felt like it had like boundaries there. There were like boundaries between work and life.
And those are all just completely falling away.
Yeah, because your outie can be at work and your innie can be at home at any point that Lumon wants. Like, you have no control over that. No real control anyway.
I also think there's an interesting layer to that circling back for a minute to the idea about Helly having kind of more autonomy than Helena. I think there's two interesting things you can take away from that as well, which are, number one is that it kind of tying into the idea that Severance likes to toy with, of kind of, you know, that old chestnut of like capitalism being like a death cult. Mm-hmm. You can be an Egan, right? You can be the CEO's daughter, the heir presumptive of the throne. And yet, if the kind of international, globalized, inscrutable, mysterious, important machinery of capitalism says that you have to do a thing, you have to do the thing. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, every life is kind of, you know, obviously people further up the chain have some amount of control over those below them, but even they, you know, are ultimately cogs in the machine, lambs to the slaughter if and when number demands. Yeah. And then point two is, it's people like to think about philosophy in Severance as well. I don't know a ton about philosophy, so that's not an angle I took in my video, but there's some good ones out there. And I think you could kind of tie this in as well, because some kind of existential thought, like I guess Sartre would be one, understood kind of like freedom and action as built on like what your choices kind of depend on your past, and like the choices you've made in the past, like kind of build the platform for the actions you can take going forward. And maybe there's something of that here, in that Helly's existence is so short, and, you know, her choices are relatively few, that she kind of has more. She hasn't narrowed herself in so much, you know? And
she has less of a context.
Yeah, she exists in less of a context, and that context obviously benefits Helena a lot, but it also has kind of built her actions into a certain kind of corner, you know? So obviously she's a bad guy, but like, you know, Severance likes to go a bit deeper than that, and this might be one of those kind of depths, maybe.
Yeah, like, I don't feel like Severance is going to be the, like, I could be wrong, but I don't feel like Severance is going to be the type of show that has like the ending be like, we did it, guys, we killed the Egans, and now capitalism is solved forever, kind of a thing. Like, I don't feel like that's going to be the ending of this show. There probably will be some like reintegration. Maybe they'll get like Severance abolished or something like that. But it feels like a very uncomfortably real look at, which is strange to say because it's such a strange show, but it's like an uncomfortably real look at work culture. And if it wasn't such a compelling show and so good, it would be like really depressing just to watch because
for sure.
You know, it is a satire at the end of the day of real life. And I mean, you talked about this in your video that Severance isn't really as fake as you would think.
No, for sure.
But I also think it's really interesting that this show is, well, it's written by Dan Erickson, but it's also directed by Ben Stiller.
Yeah, which just rocks. Like, guy wakes up after like playing very similar comedic roles for. I mean, he's done other stuff since then, I guess. But like, it's a funny. It's like imagining like a clown waking up and just writing War and Peace. You know?
Yeah, like Zoolander. Zoolander is directing this. You know.
Holy shit! Maybe that's what is called like Cold Harbor, or what's it called?
Cold Harbor.
The secret. Cold Harbor. Maybe Cold Harbor is like they're like algorithmically recreating Blue Steel.
Whoa,
whatever it's called, the look he gives.
The Blue Steel, the look that he gives in Zoolander. It's all connected.
That would be good ending. That would be Severance good ending.
And you know what's funny is that Zoolander is, I guess if you think about it, Zoolander is also like a satire of like like techno, of like capitalism.
That's probably what red pilled him. Did you ever watch Zoolander 2, by the way?
I never watched Zoolander 2, I don't think. I
didn't.
I haven't watched Zoolander 1 in like a long time, but I remember very vividly that the plot was that Zoolander was being hypnotized to kill the Taiwanese prime minister because he wanted to install child labor laws. Which, you know, it sounds ridiculous.
It's another one of those things that's less kind of, it's actually kind of real, but they're just changing it a little bit. Like, it's actually not male models in reality. It's, Postman. There's like this. I don't know. Sorry, I built myself a ramp to a bit, but then I couldn't kind of land the jump.
That's okay. It's all right.
But that's the process.
But obviously, Dan Erickson is like the primary mind behind this. Like he's the one who wrote the pilot. Yeah. But if you guys are interested, and this is a recommendation I'm making to you as well, Pillar. There's a podcast that it's called the Severance Podcast. That's hosted by Ben Stiller and Adam Scott. And sometimes they talk with other people on the show. And it's really, really interesting because you can hear like their thought process behind it. And like in the first episode, they talk about the first episode, but they also talk about the original pilot for the show and how in the original pilot, there's, I guess, content warning for like animal cruelty real quick. But in the original pilot for the show, the way that they explained Severance was Miss Cobell was showing Mark her pet rat and she had the pet rat severed. And she like tortures the rat, and then she switches the rat, and then like over to its other personality, and then the rat like cuddles up next to her, and that's how she explains Severance works. Which is funny if you're the man. It's funny in position if like you're a manager explaining to a prospective worker, it'd be like, hey, we could totally torture you.
So you're going to be this rat, and we're going to torture you, and that's kind of
and,
you know,
you'll never know.
A little bit on the nose, maybe. Yeah, maybe that's why they cut it.
I think that's why they cut it. Yeah, it's a little bit on the nose, but. It was good, and it's just a really, like, even without its themes and whatever, it's just really fucking good television. Like it's just very compelling and very well scored and very well acted and very well shot. If it stays at like this level of quality for the next, you know, however many seasons it does, it probably could like take its ranks as one of the best TV shows ever made, I think.
Yeah, no, if it maintains the quality level, for sure it'll be up there. You know, we'll be talking about it with Breaking Bad and, you know, whatever else.
Like The Sopranos and The Wire.
Yeah, The Wire.
You will have you seen that bit? That's like it's like Peter Griffin, Family Guy, and it's just like he gets hypnotized with the TV and it says, you will tell everyone that Breaking Bad is the best show you've ever seen except for maybe The Wire.
I love funny time Peter Griffin Family Guy moments clips.
I love Family Guy funny moments. Shit. Family Guy funny moments. Subway Surfer.
Oh, and I love the AI ants. No, sorry, the AI mice. I was telling you about this
Oh yeah,
before, wasn't there?
the talented.
I love the AI mice. They
talented
kind of
mice.
just steal the show.
The talented mice. They're great.
They should put them in a Family Guy compilation.
You know, in most scenarios, AI video shocks me and scares me to a level straight to my core. But I'll make an exception for the talented mice. They're funny.
Well, the thing is, apparently the song, like...
The song isn't
people
AI.
say it's AI.
The song isn't AI.
made in... No.
It's just the video.
So that's really the core of it. So I think we're fine.
We'll be okay. The talented mice have not learned to sing yet, unfortunately. Sorry to break the illusion.
Give them time. That's actually what DeepSeek's working on.
Yeah. What do you think Cold Harbor actually is, though? Like, I guess we were kind of talking about the themes, but let's do a little bit of theory crafting before we move on. What do you think Cold Harbor is?
Yeah, so I mean, I try to stay away from like online discussion because like I said before, I like to go in kind of blind.
Yeah.
But the idea that I've seen around is that it's related to Ms. Casey Gemma in some way. It's like finalizing the separation of her brain or something like that, and that's something over there that's plausible. I think it very well could be something like that, but I kind of hope it isn't, because it feels like that narrows the scope a bit in a way that
It's
I
just
really like
Severance, but it's super Severance.
Yeah, and I feel like the show's at its best when the kind of personal drama is an element of it, but it isn't the kind of the be all and end all.
Yeah.
And I worry about kind of narrowing it down to the interpersonal side too much.
Yeah.
I feel like that could kind of, not make it bad or anything, but just take away some of the kind of scope and the kind of the potential and the possibility that I find interesting about it at the moment. But, that's always a process a show goes through, right? Like, it starts out more open-ended, then it kind of narrows itself down. The potentiality kind of becomes more concrete. But
I think that my kind of I have two kind of main theories. Well, I guess not two. They're kind of connected to each other. First of all, I think that Lumon is trying to crack human cloning. This is like a very like I could.
Oh, I've seen something.
I
about
could be
this
totally
as well,
wrong.
As well,
oh, yeah,
like the baby.
Oh, I was thinking about like the goats, because like.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean I've seen people talking about like there's a baby in this season 2 opening credits, and there's obviously the whole thing about Mark's little unfortunate oopsie in the woods. So there's obviously some sort of idea about reproduction and continuing the Egans and all that.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. I don't feel like I don't think Helena well, pretty much, well, to be kind of frank, she assaulted him. But like I don't think that was like an intentional like chess move of like we got to get the Egan plotline continued with this Mark S. I kind of feel like that was just Helena like letting loose a little bit for the first time in her life.
I feel like it might be both. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be this kind of dynasty thing, but like if it is, then obviously I agree with you that it wouldn't just be that. It would also be Helena kind of stepping into the shoes of the innie that has the agency and the connections and playing around with that.
I also think that I think the goats. I don't like when I think about like why a company like Lumon would have a bunch of baby goats like that. It just makes me think that like they're trying to clone. They're like cloning goats, and like so they can eventually clone their workers, and then maybe they can like, if they are gonna do complete severance, there might be transferring consciousnesses of severed workers into their clones.
Yeah, like preset. Yeah,
and like they can tell them, okay, you've been severed. You're gonna go home at the end of the day. But in reality, they're not. They're just going right back into work.
I can see that. I like that. I'll say I like that, but I kind of hope the goats are never explained.
That would be fun too. Like I like that it's just a weird. But no,
I like
thing.
your idea.
I won't be unhappy if I won't be upset or anything, or even like at all unhappy if I'm wrong. I just think that that's like an interesting idea that they could be going with. Yeah,
for sure.
All right, Severance season 2. It's good. John Turturro, great actor.
What a guy.
There's a bit from the Severance podcast where they talk about how like John Turturro is obviously like this like legendary character actor, and so Dylan's character played by Zach Cherry, Zach and John like bonded because Dylan was a big fan of his appearances on Monk. and like he loved Monk, and so he was like, I love your stuff on Monk. I've read all the books with your character, and John Turturro's like, I didn't even know that those were made.
Says it all, really. John Turturro, great guy, great guy on Monk, which I haven't seen probably. I do have one final question that I think will kind of end us on a nice place for the Severance discussion, which is, if it's so good, why haven't they made 8 ants? You know, everyone's saying 7 ants is so good. They're carrying all the little leaves and crumbs and stuff to their queen.
That's true.
Okay,
you know, like
sure,
it's a
sure
good
guy.
question. You know, it makes me reconsider my opinion. Actually, I think Severance,
and that's what we try and do.
I think
there.
Severance might actually be not a great show after all, because like, you know,
Probably.
everyone knows that the best shows have sequel series 20 years later that are just as good.
Yes.
and all the
I don't think it's ever gone wrong.
all the actors want to be there. All the actors are there even, and everyone's all good. And everyone's comfortable playing the roles they played 20 years ago in exactly the same way.
And if you want to stop the process of aging for yourself, why don't you get our moisturizing cream?
God. All right. So, Pillar, now that we've made good use out of your streaming segment, I do want to whip into shape one more jingle before we jump into our questions section. But section before that section, I should say.
A little brief detour before we get to the questions.
I want you to think about one thing. I want you to think about one thing with this section, with this jingle. Think about books, okay? Books are important. We're going to be talking about literature.
Okay, so this is kind of like a literary discussion, kind of highbrow, kind of sophisticated. So this section, we could call it the literature review.
Sure.
That kind of gets across the kind of seriousness of the... Yeah, I think I can get something for the literature review.
All right, perfect. Let's hear the jingle that is worthy of the highbrow section.
Book, 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 book.
Huh. Okay.
Book. Book.
I have
Book.
I do have notes, but I think I'll save them for another time.
You have a notebook.
I do have a notebook.
But yeah, you've been reading some stuff. You wanted to talk about some stuff you've been reading in one book or several.
One could say, what are we reading today? What are we reading?
Yeah.
This is us definitely not ripping off stuff wholesale from the week.
That's a little reference. It's kind of... No, of course. You know what they say, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
Yeah.
I don't think those guys invented the idea of talking about reading stuff. I think we're fine. And also, I will say, I think we've said book more times than them, so that kind of gives us the authority.
That's true. We have said it at least 20,000 times.
A lot of times.
I've been reading the original Sherlock Holmes stories recently. I'm still reading the first one. I'm still reading A Study in Scarlet.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, because to start back, I was reading a collection of Edgar Allan Poe stories because for King's Creek, I've wanted to read, I want to be more well read on literary horror and literary stuff like that. And something I didn't really know about Edgar Allan Poe was that, wow, that's a rhyme. Something I didn't really know about Edgar Allan Poe. He didn't have this sick ass flow.
Real. Oh my God. When are you making a segment stinger jingle?
But it's coming soon. But he wrote horror stuff. He wrote The Pit and the Pendulum, Cask of Amontillado, Mask of the Red Death, The Raven, Telltale Heart, etc., etc. All those classic horror short stories. But he also wrote just a bunch of random shit. There's this one story that he wrote that's called the Words with the Mummy. I don't know if you've read this one, and it's just a bunch of scientists who are dicking around, and they with this never opened before cat sealed up mummy, And so then, like, while they're fucking around, they just, like, stick a battery to his nose, and, like, the mummy shocks awake and is like, ugh, I'm awake now. And then the mummy...
I love the idea that, they could do that the whole time. No one just thought of the battery technique.
Yeah, and this
it got to go right on the nose, because the nose is near the brain.
And this was like a Victorian era battery too. It wasn't even like a Duracell or anything.
Oh my god! Can you imagine how hopped up, like how fucking locked in that mummy would be now if you put like a 9-volter up his schnoz?
Well, here's the thing though. You haven't even gotten to the best part of the story.
Okay.
The mummy is like, first of all, the mummy is like fully cognizant and like cogent and is able to talk to them totally fine.
Can he speak English?
He can. They describe him as speaking ancient Egyptian, but also they can all speak it. They can all like speak it like fluently. So he might as well be speaking English for the sake of the story. He explains that that he was mummified. That when people the way his family does mummification, it means that like you keep the brain and you keep your bowels, which is, for those of you who don't know, in most mummification processes, the mummies had their like organs removed, and he was like, no, I want to be mummified so that I can be brought back to life later. And so he got that's what their family does.
when they invent batteries.
When they invent batteries, yeah. And so he's like, because I'm gonna see the world and it's gonna be super cool. It's gonna be like that show Futurama that I've seen, where you go, the world's so advanced, and then like well, no, that was our thought process as well when we got entombed in that other episode. Yeah.
We were kind of thinking about the batteries as well.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Well, time flies.
The funny thing, the joke of the story, if there wasn't any jokes so far, this is a totally normal premise. But the joke of the story is that like they explain all the things that have like all the advancements they've made, and the mummy just keeps being like, but we had that. They're like, we have like this massive, building that's like 3 stories high, and the mummy's like, we built literal pyramids.
Hey, wait till you see our pyramids.
We built literal pyramids.
If I'm that mummy, I'm saying, wake me up in another 500 years. You know what I mean?
And the guys are like, we have like democracy and stuff now. And the mummy's like, well, we had democracy back in the day. It didn't last very long, but like we had it. It was kind of whatever. And then the story ends with like the narrator being like, you know what, I'm gonna mummify myself so I can live in the future because this place kind of sucks.
I mean, I'm on Team Mummy. Like, here's the thing: the people, the kind of workers who built the pyramids, I think reportedly were paid in like beer and onions, and it's just like
beer.
Those are kind of the 2 cornerstones of modern existence as well. Without onions, you don't have kind of a lot of sauce-based cuisines.
Yeah.
And without beer, well, hey, you're 21 now. You're shit-faced as we record this. You understand the importance of beer to a kind of functioning society.
Yeah, I understand.
I think they had it kind of.
I drove over here. It's very important to drinking, to driving.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was just like one of the stories I read. I thought it was funny that he just wrote that story. It's just like, okay, I guess you have a sense of humor. But he also wrote a bunch of detective stories. He wrote Dupont. Dupont was his detective character. And so in reading those, I was like, hey, I actually really enjoy reading this detective story. Why don't I read the detective stories from the detective guy, Sherlock Holmes? The
kind of detective goat.
Yeah. And it's funny is because in the first chapter, not the first chapter, but in the second chapter of A Scandal in Scarlet, holy shit. Study in Scarlet. Holy shit. I got like A Scandal in Bohemia.
Yeah, there you go.
And Study in Scarlet got mixed up in my brain for a second there. Like in the second chapter, Watson directly compares Sherlock Holmes to Dupont from Edgar Allan Poe stories, and Sherlock takes offense at that because he's like, DuPont's a terrible detective. Like, I know you think you're complimenting me, but you're really not. Like that's pretty much exactly word for word what he says. And like Sherlock's just like a fun character because like, in most adaptations he's just like, I'm Sherlock Holmes, I'm an asshole, but I'm also really smart. And like that's fine.
British Sheldon.
That's fine. That's fine or whatever. But like the thing that I like about him is that he is a kind of an asshole in the stories too. But he's also just like a goofy guy. He's like a wacky.
He's just kind of a chill, cool dude as well.
Like there's a sequence in the first chapter where he's talking to Watson, and Watson's like Watson is like shocked to find out that he doesn't know that the Earth goes around the sun, and like Sherlock Holmes is like, why would I need to know that? It doesn't matter to my work of crime solving. And that was when I realized Sherlock Holmes was definitely autistic. His hyper, like...
Here's the thing. I reckon the Mummy knew that.
Yeah?
Yeah. More evidence for hashtag Team Mummy.
His hyperfixation is crime. Like, that's literally his whole deal. Like, his deal is crime solving.
Yeah.
And at one point, Watson makes, like, a list of all the things that he knows Sherlock Holmes, like, does or doesn't know. Like, he doesn't know any...
Yeah, the basic
Like,
things.
he doesn't know about, like, any literary references. Like, at one point, I think Watson references, like, Walt Whitman or something, and Sherlock's like, who's that? And then he doesn't understand any, like, astronomy references. He has a very basic grasp of botany, but, like, he knows, like, if you ask him about any of the crimes that were committed in London in the last 50 years, he can, like, remember it like that.
Yeah. He's kind of like a true crime kind of podcast.
Yeah.
Would be the modern equivalent.
Modern equivalent. In the modern era, Sherlock Holmes would have a true crime podcast. That's what we're learning today.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't finished A Study in Scarlet, so, you know, no spoilers.
I think I've read that one. No, I won't spoil it, but I will bounce off that and kind of give you a vague opinion on what I find interesting about Sherlock Holmes stories. Is that they're held up today as, like, you know, the prototypical detective story, and in a lot of ways, you know, they were hugely influential, obviously.
Yeah.
Not merely to the genre, but to, like, kind of ideas of, like, media consumption and fandom itself more widely. But the interesting thing, and I'm just basing this on the stuff I have read, which is some of the short stories, and I think A Study in Scarlet.
Yeah.
Maybe Hand of the Baskervilles.
To be clear,
we're going back a long time.
A Study in Scarlet is a short book, so, like, there's not really a lot of long Sherlock Holmes stories.
But what I find interesting is that, like, they get held up as, like, you know, the kind of blueprint of modern detective fiction. But, like, you go back and you read them, and they are quite different in that I guess I'm thinking about, like, the complaints a lot of people had about Glass Onion, just because I was living in that headspace for so long. Like, the idea that you have to lay out the scene, you know, you have to introduce all the characters and put all the clues in plain sight, blah, blah, blah. And the Sherlock Holmes books don't really do that. Like, they don't necessarily give you a comprehensive overview of the whole situation, and then you can kind of figure it out as you go through. It, you know, there is an element of that, of course, but it is kind of also, in part, just kind of taking you along for a ride, you know? Hey, here's a story about a detective bloke, you know?
Yeah.
It's not... reading Sherlock Holmes today, if you've seen detective TV today, or movies today, or read anything in the last 100 years, you do get a sense of the kind of genre's fluidity, which people who kind of just know Sherlock Holmes as, like, a reference don't necessarily have.
Yeah, because, like, there's a lot of things in Sherlock, like, before the main mystery gets started, where Sherlock makes, like, a deduction about something, and, like, he is able to tell that Watson is a medical doctor who served in Afghanistan, like, pretty like that, like, instantly. And the way and obviously we know that because Watson's the narrator and he said that already. But the way Sherlock explains his deduction is like, it's like, I could tell by the way you were standing and, like, the way that you talked about certain things and, like, your air about you. Yeah. And, like, those are cool deductions, but they're not a deduction that anyone reading the book could have made because they can't see Watson in front of them.
No. And also, like, you know, could have just been like, maybe he just hurt his leg, maybe he tripped on a flagstone or such. You know what I mean?
But the thing is, Watson got shot in the shoulder. He doesn't have, like, he doesn't have an injured leg.
Yeah, I've got a BBC adaptation brain poison. Sorry.
Well, here's the thing: is that from what I understand, he was shot in the shoulder in the BBC show as well. But he has.
I just invented a map. Is this a problem with the BBC thing?
I mean, it might be. I haven't seen the show. I might watch it.
Check the H-Bomber Guy video.
I might watch it after I read these stories because I've heard a lot of very mixed things about it.
Can I recommend you stop after season 2 and then just kind of, like, turn the screen off and maybe smash the computer? Because
the most discourse is around season 4, Pillar. I have to be there for the discourse.
You will have a much better time if you just stop after season 2. Like, you'll come away from it thinking, okay, that was flawed, but actually kind of good. You know, bust any further through, and you will just kind of, like, tear at your hair.
It's like, man, I'm full after I watched all 6 episodes of the first 2 seasons.
You would never survive over here in the UK in our TV ecosystem.
I mean, I made a show that only had 4 episodes, so I understand.
This is true. This is true.
But the thing that you mentioned about like the fluidity of the genre of detective stories is interesting too, because I thought about this while reading the Dupin stories from Edgar Allan Poe, because the very first Dupin story is Murders in La Rue Morgue, which is a fine story. It's not a very compelling mystery. But that's part of that is because the first half is just describing the narrator meeting Dupin and how he's like, whoa, this guy's like pretty wacky and like pretty smart though.
Kind of
and then
quirked up white boy.
And then you find out what the crime is, and then Dupin, the rest of the story is just Dupin explaining how the crime was committed. Like there's no building up of the mystery, there's no like clue gathering. It's just like,
no.
Here's Dupin, here's the crime, this is how he did it.
And that's fine, because Poe just wanted to write a story about a quirked up white boy explaining a crime, you know?
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's just kind of different.
Spoilers for the Murders in La Rue Morgue. The answer is literally an orangutan came into the room and beat everyone to death and then left.
Holy shit. Is that true?
Yeah, that's actually
that fucking rocks.
Like there's no like
I need to read
intrigue.
this.
There's no intrigue of like the motive whenever. It's just like, okay, this was an orangutan who just like went wild and just killed these people.
So hard. When are they going to film that? Holy shit. I'm kind of in disbelief right now.
There's an adaptation of that story in the TV show The Fall of the House of the Usher, but it's not a detective story. It's just like it depicts a character. So the thing about The Fall of the House of the Usher is that it's like a loose adaptation of a bunch of different Edgar Allan Poe stories into one big context. And so Murders in La Rue Morgue, it's an actual morgue and not like a neighborhood in France. And instead of an orangutan, it's a chimpanzee, because that is more realistic. Chimpanzees do just freak out on people all the time. And orangutans are generally more chill. But I'm gonna
stow that in the back pocket. Like if I ever start writing fiction and I'm ever stuck in a jam, like how do I write my way out of this one? I'm just gonna have a chimpanzee or an orangutan just kind of rock up and smash people's brains out. That is it's a good get out of jail free card to have, I feel.
Yeah. But I really like the Sherlock Holmes stories. And maybe I'm saying this because I just spent like the last 3 weeks reading Edgar Allan Poe for the last 3 weeks straight. But they're really easy to read for like 1800 stories that were published in the 1800s. Like they have a very modern, which I guess maybe speaks to like how
hence the massive popularity, right?
Yeah. Like they're very easy to understand and reread, and like they feel more like they were written in like the 40s, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
In terms of how they're stylized. And of course there's a bunch of terms and phrases that were from Sherlock Holmes stories that got put into modern, context, like the game's afoot and the plot thickens and stuff like that comes from Sherlock Holmes. So
yeah, good one, Arthur. Nice going back there. I can throw something into the mix.
Yeah.
So it's not what I'm reading at the moment. At the moment, I'm reading 1Q84 by Haruki Murakami. But recently, I read Butter by, I think her name is Asako Yuzuki in translation. And that's interesting because that's kind of it's another demonstration, funnily enough, of like the fluidity of the kind of detective genre, or what you can do with the idea of a kind of detective story outside of the detective genre, I guess, because that's basically the idea. There is the main character is this journalist, and she's trying to get to the bottom of the case of a woman who's kind of accused of being a serial killer, but kind of indirectly of kind of seducing men and kind of living such a lavish lifestyle that they kind of die. And
those darn women seduce men until they die.
Well, no, that's exactly the point of the book, because it's like it's ostensibly it's set around trying to sort of get to the bottom of what happened with these murders, but it's really it kind of explores the story of what happened kind of via food. It's almost like a third cooking book. Like there's a lot of recipes and lots of really visceral kind of descriptions of like eating and like kind of looking at the way life is kind of a journey through, it's like a meal, and then something happens, then it's another meal, and then you die, eventually. But also, it's a book about a serial killer, but it's really a book about gender and kind of gender in, I guess, modern Japanese society. But like all of this is kind of wrapped around, yeah. I mean, I guess it was written a few years ago. They didn't know woke was dead back then, so you got to cut them a bit of slack.
That doesn't like I'm kind of making fun of you a little bit, but like that it sounds like it genuinely sounds like a really good story. Like it sounds like a good conceit. Yeah,
no, it's fun, and it just I think there is a line to draw between the two of like. So many people have this firm idea of what a film should be, what a detective story should be. But like, if you look at the greats back then, the things that created this genre were kind of doing different things. They were kind of having Sherlock Holmes just be a kind of hyperfixation, kind of fun time guy, and they were having orangutans beat the fucking shit out of people as the ending to a story. And you look today, and some of the most sort of interesting stuff that's telling, some of the interesting writing about investigating killings is kind of eschewing that structure even more. So it's like detective fiction is dead. Long live detective fiction.
Yeah, like it's almost like the reason that the classics are classics is because they did new and interesting things with the genre or something. What?
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Who said that? Huh? What? Eh?
Oh, it must have been that guy.
Must have been
like the ghost of wokeness past. Oh, yeah, maybe the ghost of wokeness past is an orangutan.
I forgot to mention the funniest part to me about the murders in the Rue Morgue is that the orangutan. Part of the reason he figures out is that it's an orangutan is because he's like, no human man could have done something this strong with this strength. And the reason he comes to that conclusion
so naturally it's got to be an orangutan.
Yeah, I mean, but also it's funny because...
There are two things in the world, humans and orangutans. Sorry, I'll let you continue.
One of the things that tips him off to it is that one of the victims was like thrown out a window. But the other victim was fucking shoved up a chimney. And that's like how she's found. She's like halfway up in the chimney, like she's dead, like obviously, but it's like such an insanely like visceral thing to do for just have
me
like
personally, I would have seen that evidence and like gone with, okay, Santa's snapped. He's gone nuts. He started killing people, give him a taste of, how do you like it shimmying down a chimney, but I guess that's why I'm a YouTuber. And this fucking DuPont fella is the detective.
Yeah, and Edgar Allan Poe, he married his cousin. Did you know that? He married his like 13-year-old cousin when he was like 40.
I didn't, but he seems kind of wacky, so, tracks.
Yeah. There's actually
guys, listeners, don't marry your 13-year-old cousin.
Especially not if you're 38, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I mean, I think regardless of age.
But it's funny because there is also a poem in that collection that I have that's about his 13-year-old wife dying, and it's a really beautifully written poem, but once you know the context, it's like just really fucking creepy.
Yeah, should have stuck to writing about orangutans.
Really, he should have just stuck to writing about orangutans and black cats. Black Cat is a good story too. Anyway, he's Edgar Allan Poe, maybe not a great guy, but a good writer. Death of the author, man. Death of the author.
Yeah. Kind of a writer that leaves you with more questions than answers. And questions, well, hey, that's something we do on this podcast too.
You're on fire today with these transitions.
Yes. What is your favorite superhero? How long is a piece of string? Where do we go when we die? Why won't my son talk to me anymore? Questions.
All right, so here's one from Audi A3 Sedan. Opinions on rating systems in games and movies, PG, R, etc. How would you change it to better keep up with the current social climate? I thought this was an interesting one. What do you think?
This is interesting. Yeah, I haven't thought about this until I've seen this 2 seconds ago. So I don't really have a cohesive answer. But as like a blanket kicking off point, I would, and this is probably the European in me speaking, I would kind of adjust the sliders so violence is taken a bit more seriously and sexual content is taken a bit less seriously, like nudity and stuff, you know.
That's actually what I was going to say too. But I think that
Yeah.
the effect is more compounded in America because I don't know if you guys know this. America is a pretty puritanical country when it comes to like sex stuff. Like this is a big news flash that I don't think anyone else knew. But we were founded by literal Puritans. So
You kind of have this thing, you know, I was watching, one of the things we kicked around, maybe talking about on this episode was, I've been sick recently and I just kind of watched like seasons and seasons and seasons of The Simpsons. And there was an episode I watched the other day which kind of sums up what I think you're getting at, which is, everyone in Springfield is like going to this like, house of kind of sin. I can't remember exactly the variety of sin. Like, you know, there's like burlesque dancing. It's like it's a burlesque house, and basically everyone's going. But as soon as like one person kind of points out that everyone's going, they all turn on it and they're like, "Oh, we hate this now. Yeah, we hate this." And it feels like there's a lot of that kind of double thing in America more widely, where it's like, you know, you guys are kind of all obsessed with sex and, you know, commodifying it, but then also scared of it and hate it.
yeah, it's. I think it's kind of a cycle, right? Because I think, you know, I'm not an academic. I'm not a scholar of American like ideas about sex or whatever. But I kind of feel like it's almost this puritanical relationship with it is kind of what causes the commodification almost, because it's like the what's the effect I'm thinking of? It's like the effect of wanting what you can't have, and like obviously you can have it. You can have sex in America, at least for right now.
Yeah.
You know, you never know.
Yeah. Give them a few more.
Give it a couple years. Well, yeah, I guess you're right. A couple weeks too. That's also possible. But because of our like social norms around it, like so much of our sexual education is like, don't do it, don't have sex, don't have it before you're married. And sometimes even it's like, if you're married, don't have sex if you don't want to have kids, but also you should want to have kids, but also you shouldn't, but also like you should never discuss it. And we literally have like a parable about where babies come from so we can avoid talking about sex with our kids. It's, I don't know. I know that like opinions about sex are different in Europe or whatever, but I think that I largely am of the opinion that like it's a pretty normal biological fact of things, and what isn't biologically normal is you know, like everyone, well, not everyone, everyone knows someone who is like in a sexual relationship or has had sexual relations, but not everyone knows someone who like has gone out and killed a building full of terrorists with a machine gun, you know? So,
well, you know, speak for yourself, but
I mean, hey, you can't say that to me, an American. You can't be the one to say that. So
yeah, I'll give you that one.
Maybe knife crime.
Oh,
possibly.
can I make another quick tangent?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Look, you don't have to give it to Donald Trump. Under no circumstances do you have to give it to Donald Trump. But like, what I kind of one outcome of the current thing of like you guys just like doing a fascism right now is that, you know, for so long, the answer for why your guns couldn't have been regulated at all, or like, you know, not even like confiscated or got rid of, just regulated, is no, guys, I know kids are getting killed every day. Like, you know, so many people just get shot for no fucking reason. But we actually need the guns because the government could actually kind of overreach one day. It could kind of turn bad. You know, hey, we're Americans. Don't tread on me. You know, don't tread on me. If that happens, that's why we got the guns. So, like, one thing that's been brought out by the current climate is, no, the purpose of the guns was always to just to kill the kids. That's what they were there for, you know? No one's using them now, so they must have just been to fucking shoot kids, I guess.
Well, there is one guy, but all the don't tread on me people don't like him for some reason. Well, that's not true. Yeah. A lot of people do. A lot of don't tread on me people.
Don't tread on me, guy, when someone is trodden on. You know?
Yeah. when someone is trodden on, he probably deserved it. Probably was committed crime.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but yeah, that's what we think about rating systems.
Yeah, I think that I would put it is that like, if we're like, I would probably keep the PG-13R blah 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 blah, like whatever, but I'd probably make it so that I would adjust like R-rated levels of like what is the different? Because like the thing is that if you restrict all sexual content between R, then it means that there's no difference in the eyes of the rating systems between like someone sees a boob for 2 seconds and like, you know, the most intense over the top
full frontal, full
like
hanging
just
down.
people just like actors just actually having sex with each other,
just kind of
like
going at it.
It's not the same. So
there
I feel
should
like
probably be some sort of distinction.
Yeah, like even just for the
also,
sake
I
of
mean,
like,
I would have to reflect. I was just going to say I would have to reflect kind of longer on whether or not I even think, you know, you need a rating system like this in its current form. I also, you know, to clarify it, I would guess you're probably here with me. Like, the purpose of a rating system should always, I think, is best as a kind of advisory thing. Like,
yeah,
really the onus on kids not seeing stuff that they, you know, are or aren't ready to see lies on the parents, I think.
And that's the one thing I do like about the American rating system is that like it's ultimately just like a guidance thing. Like it's not like the only real restriction is that if it's an R-rated movie, you can't go and see it by yourself if you're under 17. Like you have to have
and I guess like the knock-on
ticket,
effects of if, you know, creatives being discouraged from you know, kind of self-censoring a bit to try and avoid the ratings that are just like death sentences for a movie like NC-17. So there's that conversation to it. But
I mean, you know, Deadpool and Wolverine made over $1 billion last year, and it's like a very R-rated movie. So who's to say?
And there's that 5-minute sequence of Deadpool and Wolverine just really kind of like getting to know each other's bodies. Which,
but see, that's the thing though. That's the inherent contradiction is that movie opens up with a scene of like Deadpool beating people to death to bloody death with a literal skeleton.
The scene I described does happen, but they're just killing each other, stabbing each other.
Yeah, it's like a cute little like not allegory. What's the word I'm looking for? Like metaphor. Is metaphor the right word?
Yes.
No.
I guess. Well,
Maybe,
we can say it's metaphorical.
It's like a metaphor, like
microcosm, maybe.
The implication is that it's supposed to be like a metaphor for them having sex with each other, kind of a thing.
Oh, right, yeah.
But they're killing each other, and like that's like a cute little haha wink wink moment.
Yeah.
When
it's literally also like, guys, think about that for a second. That's kind of messed up.
It's literally replacing sex with violence. But you can't have two men having sex with each other for real.
No, it'd be woke.
Not a joke.
Yeah, that would be woke. But
and woke's over.
Yeah.
Here's one from Buster. Hello, Rizzlers. Just a simple one today. With Superman 2025 coming out this year, what are your favorite Superman stories? From movies, comics, cartoons. Just what kind of stories of the Man of Steel do you like?
That is a good question.
Can I go first with this one?
Yeah, go for it.
I like Superman a lot, but I'm not super well read on him. I haven't read a lot of his stories.
No, honestly, I'm the same.
But I will say if I had to pick one story that I really love, like the one comic story that I do love from Superman is Superman Smashes the Klan. That is an incredible story. Like it's self-contained. Like obviously, if you probably should know the context of who Superman is and like the yada yada yada. Like this is who this guy is. It's Clark Kent. He's an alien from another planet, but it's also kind of an origin story in the sense that like he's already Superman when it starts, but he becomes more Superman as time goes on. Like he discovers more about himself. Like it's like he started being Superman already, and then the story is about him reckoning with like his alien identity and like his kind of inherent feeling of not feeling like he belongs, but also tying that in with like the American experience with immigration and also, you know, racial politics. It's fucking called Superman Smashes the Klan. But it's just, it takes place in the 40s. I'm doing a really bad job of like giving a coherent pitch of it, but it's a
well, you don't have
really
to, do a summary. You can just this is your answer, you know.
I just think it's really good because like it's all about like the personal, you know, philosophy of Superman. It's not about like, oh, Superman's like big and strong and he can punch people good. It's like
when he sneezed the galaxy away or whatever.
Yeah, when he sneezed they made a new planet. It was really cool. But yeah, if anyone is like skeptical about Superman at any point, like I feel like for me, Superman Smashes the Klan is like an epitome of everything I really love about the character. So, go read that.
Yeah, me personally, I don't have a great answer for this. I probably will have a better one in a few months' time, because one of the Patreon videos I have to make at some point in the next few months is about like superheroism and like how far it is wedded to power fantasy, and like how, if it's kind of tied to that, or if it goes beyond it. So I've started research for that already, and I've been looking into Superman, obviously, because there's a lot of stuff around that. Just today I was reading a really interesting essay by Umberto Eco, The Myth of Superman. Recommend that for a little read if anyone wants to read about a guy writing decades and decades ago from like a kind of philosophical, analytical, kind of critical analysis of like the sliding timescale in comics. That's fun. But I feel like as of right now, my gut instinct is just to say, I like my adventures with Superman,
That's good too.
I've seen like some of the TV stuff before. I've seen some of the movies. I've dipped into the comics. I've not done a full read through, but I feel like my adventures with Superman is just a very modern distillation of what works well and what's always worked around like that kind of that side of the character. The kind of, I don't know. I just think it's cool. I think it's cool, and
I just think it's neat.
Yeah, I just think it's neat. I think it's fun, it's fresh, and it's sort of classic at the same time. Everyone listening to this has already watched it. Why don't I come back to this podcast on YouTube and comment below in a few months' time with a little bonus future nugget of, hey, I read this story in my research process and I liked it.
Yeah, you should do that.
You should
do that for send a note to your future self for that. Also, hopefully come July 2025, we could come and comment that and say Superman 2025 is up there now. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
I think so.
I don't know what I'm gonna do if Superman 2025 is bad. Actually,
James Gunn wouldn't let us down. If James Gunn lets us down, I'm deleting my channel and like shaving my head.
But I mean, if James Gunn lets us down, at least the spirit of his work lives on in Thunderbolts Asterisk.
This is true. I love Thunderbolts Asterisk.
Thunderbolts Asterisk. That's my.
I'm kind of going in early on that being good, so I'm kind of like, I'm a Thunderbolts Asterisk enjoyer.
Honestly,
so
it might be.
Say in the future, hey, I was on the level from day one. I was on the wavelength.
I don't think either of us were ever on like the Captain America Brave New World train necessarily.
Not really, no.
No. Like barring any kind of real world events, context, whatever, I don't know. It just seemed like it doesn't.
I mean, you can't really hold Trump 2025 against Brave New World, because like it was made like 4 years ago, right? It was like it's been in the can for a while. But I think what you can, and maybe this is something I'll go into in a video in the future, I think you can hold the film accountable for saying nothing that would be relevant like a year ago in like a Biden type presidency. From what I hear, it doesn't really say anything about that.
But it's been such a long time since it was first announced and first started working on it. Like, I mean, when it was first announced, Blade was only 5 years into production.
Yeah.
But like Thunderbolts could be good, maybe. I think most people are excited about Fantastic Four, which I think fair enough. That's like I think
I'm just gonna wait and see with that one.
Like I think that I'm gonna like the style of it, and at very least, like I'll probably like I'm a sucker for retro futuristic stuff, but I'm not holding my breath on anything Marvel. Like I'm kind of like, I'm gonna go in with no expectations to most Marvel stuff, and if I like it, awesome. Also,
I mean, thing is, well, Marvel's woke.
That's true.
Woke is dead.
And woke is dead.
So, QED.
We got rid of woke. No more woke. It's a real thing he said. I know I said that already in this podcast, but I like how we've turned this question about Superman into talking about Marvel again.
Thunderbolts Asterisk, yes. That is so on brand for us.
It is very on brand. Superman will be good. I'm locking it in right now. Superman will be good.
Yeah.
All right, last question from Honey. this is a bit of a silly one. I figured that we're on a good streak right now. Might as well go with the question that won't get us both into trouble.
Yes.
What accents can the both of you do without arsing it up?
Yes.
Show us your accent game.
Oh, see, this kind of leads us onto a tricky question, which is something I've thought about in the past, which is like, which factors determine what accents it is and isn't okay for you to do?
I think that for me, it's like if they're a minority who was like made fun of, who was like mocked for being like a, being like a racialized minority or something, and you're of a non-racialized. If you're of a non-minority, if you're not a member of that course, blah blah blah. I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's always okay to make fun of British people. It's always okay to make fun of British people.
No, I think there's like a matrix of like who you are, and part of it is who you are and where you're from, and your culture. But if you're in a minority or a sort of majority, and then further to that, there's kind of like a historical kind of cultural continuum of like how much contact have my people had with theirs, how much have we oppressed them or been oppressed. So like, it's not just geographic, because like I feel like I can do South African and that's all right, but I can't do like Kenyan,
What accent did you just do?
That was my South African. I just kind of channel Andy Serkis being Ulysses Claw. Got to get the vibranium from Wakanda, that kind of thing. So I feel like I can do that.
When I do South African, I try to like imitate Elon Musk. I try to be like, yeah, I mean, and the
thing about that is
we that's not real.
Wokeness,
we got destroyed. Have you seen?
Nice.
Did you see that stream he did with where he was like appeared on Connor Eats Pants Fortnite Fridays thing, and he was Adrian Ditterman, not Elon Musk. Adrian Ditterman and Elon Musk, who are definitely two different people. Says,
yeah, of course. Have you ever seen them in the same room? Oh shit,
exactly.
no.
So,
no, have you ever? Oh, I messed it up. Fuck.
I mean, I haven't even seen Adrian Ditterman's face, so
yeah,
can't conclusively confirm.
I have
Musk's face.
I have a good talent for accents. Taking it back to this, but like, I can do like a range of kind of European accents, but and that's another thing. Like, I think it would be fine for me to do a Swedish. I think I could do a Swedish accent, and that would be better than me doing Italian. But I could probably do Italian, but maybe like Greek is a bit dicey. I don't know. This is a whole thing. But
do your Swedish. The point of this question was for us to hear the accents. You got to do your Swedish.
So I can do like kind of Northern European accents, but only really in the context that I've heard them in, which
You're stalling, Pillar.
I play a lot of CS, so I can say CS phrases in like regional dialects and accents a lot better than I can normal things. Like, so I can say like, that's fucking sick, bro. And that sounds like something, that's the way a Swedish person would say it, if you clutch around and like you've got a Swedish teammate. Or I could, so we just listened to the coach and we played our game. And that's kind of like a Finnish accent. Because you hear the pros, saying like, but like take it out of that context and I get a bit more, I get worse for like Central and Northern Europe. Obviously, I can throw some like Russian your way. I can throw some kind of all kinds of Mediterranean ones your way. I can go Spanish. I can go like I could do Spanish, but I couldn't do Mexican. That's another angle of the kind of like there's matrix of oppression.
Which is funny. It's funny like listening to Spanish and Mexican accents because obviously to my American ear, Spanish the language is associated with Mexico more, and so I hear Spanish spoken in the Mexican context more often. So it's kind of funny hearing Spanish spoken by Spaniards. Because it sounds wrong, so like my ear. Yeah,
because you've got there's also like phonetic differences. Like I Peninsular Spanish, they will say like z. I think it's just Peninsular Spanish where like z is th, so you would say like chorizo instead of chorizo. I don't know. Maybe that's probably a bad example. I don't speak Spanish, but there are differences. And then like it's funny, like I will go through like a Duolingo phase of like trying to learn some Spanish if I'm going to Spain. And then you see a kind of Mexican character on TV saying something, and then it's like, but that isn't right. Usted? That's one of them.
But I also want to share some of my regional American accents.
Go for it. I'm useless for those.
Yeah. My so important context for this one is that a lot of my family is from like New Jersey and Pennsylvania, but like the rich white part of New Jersey, not like the so I can kind of do a East Coast accent that way. Well, you got to go over to the water and you water, and if you go into the water, you'll see that there's a wolf. There's a wolf over there, and that was terrible. That was a terrible. That leaned more into like Irish almost. That wasn't.
I can do like Boston. I can try and do like, "Hey Ma, get the car." They talk like that up in Boston, don't they?
It's yeah. There's a lot of A sounds. You got to go on the.
It's like non-rhotic R's, yeah.
And then of course there's a Southern accent, and that's the one that gets imitated the most with American, because it's very distinctive.
It's easiest to do.
Even though I'm doing like a composite of it right now, and a not very strong one, because there's like difference between Kentucky Southern and Texas Southern, and like Georgia Southern.
Yeah, I was going to say you sound like a sort of well-spoken Kentucky gentleman more than anything.
Yeah. Like there's differences, and I'm going back, and I'm like, the thing is, I drift as I start speaking. Like my accents become different. And then, like, I've been trying to do, like, a Midwestern accent, which is basically just me trying to imitate Tim Walz, mostly. What is something he says? He says, like...
well, he would say, like, woke is alive.
That's true, he would say that. I'm trying to think of, like, things
I can fill time with regional UK accents if you want.
Hold on, let me look up, like, a Tim Walz quote. This is fun though. I also could do a bit of Scottish, do a little bit of Scottish, but it's not a good one. It's not a good one because it's mostly just me imitating Shrek. What are you doing in my swamp?
Which isn't a real Scottish accent.
It's not a real Scottish accent. It's an American doing a
Scottish accent. You gotta give it a. Hey, I'm Pillar of Garbage. I'm from the Highlands. You know, give it a bit of the kind of the throatiness. You know. How are you for Australian, though, mate? Shrimp on the barbie. Bondi Beach. Oh, get the ute. You know? They always talk about the utes. Yeah. What about, hey, this one's for the British listeners, right? I'm Pillar of Garbage. I'm from Liverpool. Chicken and a can of Coke. Love the Beatles, me.
Matt.
Is it Waltz mode time?
I'm listening to him speak real quick.
Oh, I'm hearing this.
What's right for Texas will be right for Washington.
Okay, Washington.
Because it's not too different. There's just like it's like the thing is with regional American accents is that there's very subtle differences. Like when you're not going into like.
Meanwhile, in the UK, you drive like 10 miles down the road and.
Oh yeah, do a Scouse accent. Do a Scouse accent.
That's what I just did. So that was my
offend.
Because Scouse is Liverpool. You're right. I'm from Liverpool, me. I love the Beatles. Chicken on a can of Coke. I just did that one, but that's my main phrase. They talk about chicken because it's like a throaty thing. It's like
yeah. I don't
kind of going up towards the sort of other yeah.
See, like the thing is, I don't do accents a ton. I do like impressions of voices. Like I can do a bit of a Ringo Starr. Paul, you gotta come over.
See, that's another side of the kind of Scouser thing, you know. It's like a deep thing. It's like taking the kind of northern UK accent towards the southern Scotland kind of thing, but with a bit of the kind of, you know, we could get lost talking about the kind of depths of the Liverpudlian kind of the brogue. Really, a brogue is what it is.
And I can do a little bit of like David Tennant's 10th Doctor. Like I can do a little bit of that. It's just like, are you mad?
Where's he even from?
He's from Scotland, but he's like, so it's not like
but he does
real.
He does like a British accent.
He does like a British accent.
An English accent.
Well, yeah, he does an English accent, but he's like, it's not quite an English accent. So like, there's like little bits of the Scottish like that come in from time to time. It's just like, oh, brilliant.
I could do a Birmingham accent. This is how people talk from Birmingham. I'm from Birmingham. Oh, I love
you sound like Jamie Tart from Ted Lasso.
A good reference point is, Tommy, we've got to get the Peaky Blinders back together, mate. You know, by all of the Peaky fucking Blinders type shit. So, you know, jot that one down.
Yeah.
I had a comment. I know we're not doing comment corner, but this is a good place to mention it. I think I showed you this comment where I had a comment on the Severance video where someone said basically, this is a cool video, but I can't square someone talking about class consciousness with it being delivered in your accent, Pillar of Garbage. Yeah. And that's just such a wild thing. Because, like, I don't know if you guys have ever heard my voice, right? But I feel like if you've kind of have any reference points for, like, UK accents beyond UK accent equals posh, I feel like you can tell that I'm kind of not the kind of...
like, you don't sound like Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah, I'm not your Queen Elizabeth type. I'm kind of... I'm on the spectrum. I'm near a kind of chimney sweep.
Wait,
than
pillars
I am
pillars on the spectrum. Hold on, pillars on the spectrum.
Oh, shit.
That's the soundbite. That's the soundbite we're taking.
Yeah.
I'm on the spectrum too, so join us. I think I wanted to share one last impression before we move on.
Please do.
To the end. This isn't even like an accent from a real person, because it's the accent of the one voice I've always been able to do real well for some reason is Darth Sidious from Star Wars. He goes like, the power of the dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural. Good.
You kind of locked in there.
Give in to your anger.
I'm impressed. This is good. This is good stuff.
There were good people on both sides when the Death Star was first blown up. There were good people on both sides.
Now say woke is dead.
Woke is dead. We got rid of woke. That's
a very impressive accent, TSD. You should be very proud of yourself for how you say pulling this off. Very good. I'm impressed.
I like that an important part of every French accent is someone saying, "Oh, how you say?" Because
they like to remind you they're not native English speakers. They're very particular about when they speak French and when they speak English.
All right, now that we've progressively gone on a long trip to offend every single one of our English-speaking listeners from every part of the globe, do you want to end off the episode? Do you think?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. I'm German Pillar of Garbage. Thank you very much for... I went a bit French there. Thank you very much for watching this video. Oh, I've lost it completely.
Yeah, that sounds very French.
Log back in.
All right.
Hello, everyone. I'm Irish Pillar of Garbage. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please don't... see, Irish is probably past the line for me as a Brit. So I'm sorry, guys, but I'm going to commit to it.
That might be edging into.
I'm going to go back. Offensive. I'm going to double dip, and I'm going to say, if you like the show, make sure to subscribe. Follow us on our platforms. Oh, it's shifting again now. I think I'll end Scottish. Tune in to our YouTube videos and stuff, and take it away, TSD.
All right.
Completely disintegrated.
Thank you all so much for listening to this episode. We post new episodes on Fridays, not every Friday, but we'll post on a Friday. And don't forget to follow us on whatever platform you're listening to us on. If you're on YouTube, toss us a like if you liked, comment if you had any thoughts. And if you're on any other podcast platform, leave us a review. And no matter what platform you're on, feel free to share the show with anyone you think might like it. All of those help support the show and ensure future episodes. You can find Pillar on YouTube, Twitter, and Blue Sky, all under Pillar of Garbage. He also has a Discord server that should be linked in the description, where you can have your own questions in the hashtag PoGcast Q&A channel read on the pod. You can find me on YouTube, Blue Sky, TikTok, Instagram, and all others under TSD Talks. We also both have Patreon pages that, among other cool perks, allow you to listen to episodes of the show early, usually whenever we finish them. It can kind of range, and I'm kind of like I'm an auctioneer person. 100, 100, 200, 100, 200, 200 sold for 200. And with that out of the way, I'm TSD Talks.
I'm a Pillar of Garbage from Venezia.
Oh my God. And this has been the Pillar of Garbage podcast.
Arrivederci, buonasera.